What is up, YTPC? I am Professor Pipe Smoker. And today I'm smoking my Hans Christian Andersen Church Warden. It is the most ridiculously long pipe I have, and I absolutely love this thing. You can see it right here. Hopefully. It's got some really cool ornate features on it. I love this gold and silver band. I do love the way it smokes. She's smoking well. Always does, though. It's a type of pipe that always smokes well. I know church warden pipes are kind of an acquired taste. I would never take this pipe out in a public setting in fear of poking out somebody's eyeball. Could you imagine that story by somebody? How'd you lose your eye? Oh, there was this pipe smoker. Vicious person. And he poked my eye out with his church warden. Not the kind of headline you want for your life. Vicious pipe smoker pokes out somebody's eye with a church warden pipe would be really bad, I think, headline. Government would get involved. See, we told you smoking was dangerous. We're passing the eyeball reform bill. Any pipe over 3 inches cannot be put out in public. Cannot smoke any pipe over 3 inches. 3 inches will get you a felony. Of course, in New York State, that wouldn't matter because they release all their felonies. You'd be out the next day. You'd be good. You could probably bludgeon somebody to death with a church warden pipe and then get out the next day in this state. I'm not saying anybody should do that, by the way. So if you are from the, any government, branch, including Homeland Security, I'm not threatening anybody with a pipe. Because that would be the next thing. They're all terrorists, pipe smokers. Any rate, getting back to this. This is a great pipe. It smokes really great. Hans Christian Andersen Church Warden. It does come with an option for a smaller stem. But there are just some days that I like to role play that I'm a church warden sitting in my studio overwatching the treasures of the Catholic Church in front of me so nobody steals my jewels. By the way, that's kind of the story. The reason why there's a church warden pipe is so that the people who are watching the churches, the church wardens, could light their pipes. Make sure nobody was stealing from the church. Don't know how true that is, but that's what they say. The reason why. So it is a new year, and right now I am smoking Peterson Deluxe blend. I'm going to read the back of this tin and tell you what it says. It says that this blend is Black Cavendish. It is hang on, once again, low lighting. It is a selection of matured Virginia tobaccos from Brazil and Africa. It's exotic. This is Irish exotic blend. I actually now feel like a world traveler smoking this. Well, of course I've been to Brazil and India. Right here. I've visited that country. I've smoked that country. It says it's blended in a loose cut mellow black Cavendish, which is complemented by a very auspicious, I like that word, auspicious sweetness of vanilla, walnut, and honey. It says the strength is 2, which means it's pretty mellow. Aromatic taste is 5. I don't know. We'll visit that in a second. And that the room note is a 3. Taste isn't bad, but I wouldn't say it's a 5. I just had a little bite. I feel like the taste is more like a 3. The strength is definitely light. It is probably a 2. The room note is, here's what I would give it. Here we go. This is my rating system. Remember, listen, pipe community. Pipe tobacco taste is based on the person tasting it. If we have similar tastes and smells, which probably we won't, but if we do, you will probably find this to be a solid 3 all the way across. If your taste and smell is different and leans more towards, other flavors and things, then it might be a 5 to you. Now, the room note is pleasant. It really is. That room note is definitely, I think, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give the room note a 4, in my opinion. I'm going to give the taste a 3. It's not a 5 by any stretch. Very little vanilla, very little honey, very little, what was the other thing that was in here? Walnut. A little nutty, very little vanilla, very little honey. There's not a lot of strong taste going on within this Peterson blend, this Deluxe blend. It is good though, and it's smoking really well. I will say this, and I'm going to say this. For an aromatic, this tobacco is actually smoking probably one of the best for an aromatic. It's staying lit. It's consistent. There's not snap, crackle, pop going on. It's not overly wet. It's not overly dry. It's got this really nice blend and balance. At least my tin had that. Smell is decent. It's got a really decent room note on it. There's probably more flavor in the room note than there is in the taste. And the smell within the tin. I know that might sound weird, but it's actually very true. At least to my senses, Now here's the thing. I don't have an overly sensitive nose. I know some people do. So they're very keen to pick up on every little thing, I've seen people like that. They're like, what is that smell? It smells like somebody picked up a piece of dirt from a farm country and dragged it into the church rug. I'm not like that. I can smell average things. When it doesn't smell good, when it smells good, that thing. I don't have an overly sensitive nose. What I do have is an overly sensitive palate in my mouth, which I know sounds weird because they're supposed to work together some way, but for some reason my taste buds are super hyperactive. And I am a smell guy too. I always said that, but I'm not an over sensitive smell guy. Like, I like pleasant smells. I burn candles and incense. But it does have it's got a good room note. It really does. Really good solid room note. But as for quality of smoke, I definitely got to give this a 5 for quality of smoke for an aromatic. It is smoking just wonderfully. So, really good tobacco. Really good tobacco on this. So, yeah, this is good. New year, new flavor. I am really enjoying smoking it through my church warden. I think the church warden is just enhancing how good the smoke really is on this, because we know that part of smoking pipe is the pipe itself. If you have a great smoking pipe, then that's just going to amp up the quality of your smoke. And this pipe never disappoints. I could put anything in this pipe and it just smokes well. Once again, Hans Christian Andersen pipe, church warden, but it does come with a smaller stem as well. Yeah, beautiful smoke, beautiful smoke. Love, definitely digging the aromatic part of this blend. I think the aromatic is definitely the best part of the blend, not the taste. 10 notes okay, but taste is okay, but the aroma is really good. The root note is fantastic. So, with a few minutes that I have left, I just want to get on here and say hello. I have literally recorded, this is my 6th video, and I haven't uploaded any of them. And every time I record a new one, I kind of go, oh, the old one's out. I recorded one at Christmas and didn't get it edited because I had a lot of stuff that was going on. So what has happened over the last 2 weeks in my life has just been shows. Christmas is the busiest time for production people. And I am a church production guy, so that gets even... It's like church production. Christmas is the holy grail of any church production year. Easter and Christmas, those are 2 big ones. So what we do is we have a big production, then we have about a week of that's kind of what I call just a little lull. And then we have our Christmas Eve service. And this year, Christmas fell on Sunday, so we had our church service. Then we had a week right after our Christmas service where we had a wedding. My pastor's wife had passed away last year around this time, and he remarried, so there was a wedding this past Wednesday. Then after the wedding, we did a massive stage build and overhaul, and we installed a brand new LED wall that's 20 feet by 10 feet. Completely overhauled the lighting, put in theater lighting, put in all new kind of lighting design for the stage. Quite a year, man. Quite a year. So that's what we were busy doing. And I do want to point out that this camera's at a different angle because I've actually been working on my studio building it, and I'm moving things around. So this is kind of one of those things that's happening right now too. I got that going on. When I get off this video, I'm going to actually work on my studio. What I wanted to say is this. Found out yesterday, the production world, I feel like I should just be smoking this. The production world is a very small world. What I mean by that is when you're in production and you've done big productions and you've been in this industry a while, and I've been doing this for about 35 years. I've been doing production, concert productions, music production, studio work, all kinds of stuff. Kind conferences and concerts and everything in between, the big church productions and all this. It's a very small community. You think it's large. It's large in its scope. It's large in its reach. But the key players within the industry, it's a small pool. What I mean by key players are players that are essential or pivotal within the music industry. Here's what I mean by that. There are people who own audio companies, big audio companies that do big productions. Everybody who's involved in production is a key player. I never want to diminish any role on this, but the guy who owns the company is a real key player because they own the company that hires, anywhere between 10 to hundreds of people on their payroll. A lot of times you'll know that person or have heard of them. The CEOs of the record labels, the head of Live Nation. I actually did a documentary on him. There are key players in the industry. And there was a key player locally for us that was a giant when it came to production because there wasn't a company like it in this area. I would call it Western New York. This company called Audio Images. And the owner of Audio Images is a guy by the name of Sebastian Marino. We called him Sebby or Seb. That's who we refer him as. He was also the guitarist for the band Anvil. There's a documentary out on that band as well that's kind of hilarious. Those guys kind of went off the wall a little bit. Not Seb, the other guys. And he was also the guitarist for Overkill. So not only was he a big production guy in this area, but he was also a musician. And you'll find that out a lot is that guys who do the music scene, after a while, they kind of settle down and they'll either do like music production or they'll end up camping at a church like where I'm at right now doing production, or they'll start their own production company. That's what Seb did. Seb started his own production company. And I did a lot of concerts with Seb in my days. When all started when I was at Houghton. Actually, it started before Houghton. I was doing a big concert for a band I was working with called Cutlass. At the time, they were like the top Christian band out there. And at any rate, we needed some gear for a show. So I contacted the production people at the church, said, who should I contact? And immediately they all said, Audio Images and Seb, he's a great guy, he'll take care of you. And it was a pleasure dealing with him. Everything, one, the price was really good. Two, his attitude was really good. Three, his heart was really good. I mean, he was just a cool dude. At that time, I had him put together that he had done the work he had done with, the bands that he, Overkill and that he was part of. I would find that out after working with him through many shows, and because he wasn't the type that came up and would be like, hey, you know who I am? I used to play guitar with Anvil and Overkill, man. I rock and roll. He wasn't like that. You would never know. You would think that he was just the guy that owned this production company. And that was the other part, too. You think that he was this guy that just kind of owned this local production company. But I will never forget the day when he said, hey, I want to give you a tour. We just went through and revamped the entire warehouse in Rochester. And at that time, I lived in Rochester. So I was like, oh, this is going to be cool, Like, anytime I could get around gear, I just love looking at gear, seeing what other people have, So it was that kind of deal. And I went and I went to this building. I will never forget this building. This building was grade A ghetto. Well, the neighborhood. The building was actually pretty decent, but it's still it matched the neighborhood. There we go. That's what I should say. The outside. But he did something that was very smart. He bought a house right next door, and then he had apartments, and the people that worked for him, he would rent those apartments to them so they could watch his building. And he had cameras. It looked like a high security government facility. There were just cameras everywhere around this building, and chain link fences and all this other stuff. But it was also tagged and graffitied up, so it really blended in. It was pretty ingenious, I think, at some level. So I went inside this large, which looked like just a big outside kind of semi-worn down warehouse, but inside it was freaking gorgeous. And there was tons of equipment. I mean, just it went on and on and on and on. I mean, one area, just every drum kit you would ever want. And I mean, I'm not talking like $200 starter sets. I'm talking like $5,000 like DW rider ready kits, Yamaha customs, all kinds of snares. Everything was there. Just this whole entire. It looked like just a drum warehouse on the front side of this building. Then it went into keyboards, every keyboard you'd ever want, and then guitars and basses and cabinets and amps, and then as you moved your way through the warehouse, you got into, just all kinds of line arrays and speakers and high-end stuff, and then you kept going, and it was lighting gear and trussing, and God, I had never seen anything like that in my life. It was the largest warehouse I've ever seen, with the most equipment I've ever seen. There was millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of stuff in this place. And I could tell he was proud of what he had done, and he should have been, because to have something like that in the upstate New York area and start that business from scratch and take it to where it went to was just a massive accomplishment. And he had a full crew. That was the other thing. He had a full crew that worked with him. Just really cool stuff. And the name of the company was Audio Images. I think I already said that. And Seb owned it. And so it was just really neat. He had tractor trailers. He had box trucks. He had all kinds of, pickups, depending on the size of the concert, I remember when I did a big Toby Mac show, and I actually hired them to build the stage because I needed to custom build this large rig for Toby Mac. We couldn't fly speakers from this venue's beams because it wasn't architecturally rated to handle line array flies or anything. He came down with his crew and built this massive stage. It was a 2-day stage build. It was massive. All kinds of ramps, all kinds of shootouts to the crowd. And enough to carry all the weight of the gear from screens to LED walls to line array hangs that are just tons of weight. But yeah, he pulled up, in a tractor trailer just full of gear, along with 7 other tractor trailers that were there for the show. So we had 8 tractor trailer load and unload for one show. That was a big one. He was a very successful businessman in the music industry. More successful is he had a lot of friends that really respected him and that really loved him as a person. And I found out yesterday that Seb passed away. He was doing what he loved. He was doing a big show in Florida So the story always went, every year they would go down to Florida. There was a very rich multi-millionaire down in Florida who every year holds a New Year's party on his private beach. And they would set up a big stage on the beach, seatings for probably a couple of thousand. I think it normally was, maybe a little less. And this multi-millionaire would always bring in a band that he liked. So I remember one year was like Casey and the Sunshine Band, and another year it was oh man, I'm trying to remember everybody they brought in. It was just a different big band. I think one year was like Michael Bolton, stuff like that. It was kind of these older artists that this millionaire loved that he would just bring in for a private show to his friends. And Seb always supplied the gear and the staging for that. So the Audio Images crew would just pack up, get in a tractor trailer, get in their vehicles, drive to Florida, set everything up, do the concerts, drive all the way back. And it was at that concert yesterday where he was working that he had a heart issue and took a massive heart attack. And they took him to the hospital in Florida and he passed away. That was an ouch. Because I remember we had a show, the Toby Mac show at Houghton, and him and I were talking, me and Seb, and he was looking pretty beat up and worn out. Like, this industry, if you're really busy and the stress and everything, it can really beat you up pretty hard. And he was looking pretty ragged there. And Seb and me had this thing where we would kind of compare war wounds with each other. Like, oh my god, dude, I twisted my knee on the stage and had to go in. It was a torn meniscus. They had to repair it, something like that. And I was like, man, I'm gonna retire. It was always weird, yeah, we're gonna take it easy. But he never took it easy, and neither have I. I have now a little bit. Now I realize that you need your legs to walk. I know it's a revelation for some, but your legs and knees are very important for mobility. And this business of going up and down steps and up and down trusses and climbing things is for the birds when you get older, and it just beats up your back and your legs. We would always talk about stuff like that. And I said to him, I said, I think it's time for us to not be the brawn anymore, but to be the brains. In other words, we've got the knowledge of how to do all of this stuff. So let's teach these younger guys that got the bodies that can actually still lift to do this. And we sit back and just kind of guide them in their endeavors to make sure they don't kill themselves. What I mean by that is I had a crew at Houghton that almost ran a road case over a 400 amp circuit. There wasn't a cable ramp. Normally you have cable ramps that cover the dangerous stuff. We hadn't put down the cable ramp yet, and it was bared wire, and if you went across the road case and split that open, somebody was going to die. And my crew was headed towards going over the top of that with a road case with metal, casters with metal pieces on them. And people have died doing this stuff. And so, we were kind of talking about that, like, let's make sure we make people they don't die, and we'll be the brains and they can be the brawn. And he liked that idea and agreed with me, but he never would have done that because he was just a worker. He was work. Some part of me thinks that this industry and the stress and that kind of thing is probably maybe what caused his early death. Because the other part of that is our diets in this industry are horrible for especially the production crew. For some reason, I don't know why, and I don't know where this started, but for some reason, every concert place thinks that the road crew loves pizza and wings and the greasiest food you can ever eat. And that's what the production crew gets. We get, not every production crew, by the way. I'm talking about the venues where, They don't want to spend a lot of money on good food, so we all get pizza and stuff. And the other part of that is sometimes you're just so worn out after a concert that the easy thing to do is to go through the drive-through. So part of it is, I guess, our own doing, where we don't take care of ourselves and we clog our arteries with a lot of bad stuff. And then the other part of that is the stress. So if you combine stress with bad food, you're probably going to die an early death. And I've seen that, by the way, with a lot of guys in this industry, is that they eat really bad and they have a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, and it's a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. And Seb was only 3 years older than myself. It isn't like we're big age difference between the two of us. It's like, that's why we would talk about our war wounds and our injuries, and we'd joke about them and laugh, and but you knew they were there, but you just had to laugh it off. There's nothing you can do. Once your knees are kind of cooked, the only way to fix them is either through surgery or just calming down a little bit, taking care of yourself. And I've made it a point to try to do that now within the last probably 5 years of my life. That's why I took a church job where I can train up people. And I still do, work and still haul stuff at times, but I try to stay away from that because my doctor's orders were no more of that. You're gonna really ruin. You ain't gonna be able to walk. You're gonna be in a wheelchair if you keep going. So we understand the risk, but I think that risk and the lifestyle and the stress, my theory is that's what killed him young, really young. And he was too young to pass away. He was in his 50s, And that's way too young nowadays. But he's going to be missed. He was a good man. He was a good friend. We had a lot of laughs. We had a lot of shows. We had a lot of stories from our days on the roads. On the road. Any of the big concerts in the area. I actually remember Bruce Springsteen, when saw him up in Buffalo, and sure enough, every show you would go to in this area that had a huge show, you would always see the audio images stamp on the side of a road case. Audio images, psh, audio images, psh, on that road. As a matter of fact, the crazy part is last summer we did an uproar conference at our church, and we hired a company to do some backline for us that was out of, I think, Syracuse or something like that. I wasn't responsible for getting the backline for the conference, but when they showed up, part of their road cases had audio images stamped right in the side. And I said, Seb, yeah. Seb hooked us up, man, and hooked this company up. He was a team player. He was in it for the music. He was in it because he loved the industry, and he had a lot of friends in this industry. If you look at Loudwire today or any of the music periodicals and look up Sebastian Marino, you'll see many articles from the news outlets that said that he passed away yesterday. So, guys, we have to take care of ourselves, and we have to take care of our families, and we have to take care of the people around us, and encourage everybody to be healthy and stay healthy and develop healthy habits. Recently, I went on I wouldn't say a diet. It's not a diet. It's actually a lifestyle change. And it's changing the way I view food and changing the reason why I eat the way I do and the different things. And it's really helped in a week and a half. I'm 10 pounds down. And my goal is to lose 50 to start, and then an additional 30 on top of it. So 80 total pounds, and it's not going to be a fast journey. The initial weight loss, I realize, is like, well, okay, I lost a lot, but it's because I was busy. But I really need to be around for my families. You all need to be around for your families. Some people will be like, well, why are you smoking if you can be around for your families? This ain't going to kill you. You know what's going to kill you? Stress. You know what's going to kill you? Bad eating habits. Let me tell you, more preservatives in food will kill you more than this will. True story. This, you don't even inhale. You blow smoke out. You're probably breathing worse air in the city you live in than what this produces, which is hardly nothing, by the way. And I don't smoke regularly. I am not a habitual pipe smoker. I smoke 3, maybe 4 times a week. Maybe. During this busy season, it was literally like once a week, So this is not going to kill you. Stress is going to kill you. Bad eating habits is going to kill you. Speeding down the road at 95 miles an hour, there's a good chance you could die. Doing risky things, this isn't, to me, is on the lower end of the risk. So we have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of those around us, which a lot of times are our family. For me, it's my wife, it's my boy, it's my daughter. Those are the people I need to take care of and be around for the long haul. 3 years from now, I don't want somebody on here talking about me like, oh, he was really good in the production, like I just talked about Seb. No, I don't want that. Maybe 30 years from now I want that. So it's time I think it's time to tweak a little bit and rethink where we're at and think about how our actions are affecting those around me and around you. I know this is a long video, but I wanted to pay tribute to my friend. I wanted to be able to get on here and really share my heart of who Seb was, what he meant to me, what he meant to the music industry, and hopefully now you guys know who he was, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you had no idea who this man was. But if you've ever been to even concerts in the Northeast, probably somewhere in that equation, Audio Images was involved in those concerts. Whether it was rental gear that somebody got because they had it, or whether it was that they actually did the show themselves. If you ever been to shows in Buffalo, that entire show was powered by Audio Images up in the arena up there and in Buffalo. So I just wanted to say, and any of the big shows in Buffalo, which included all the theater shows, which, I could just go on and on. Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Western New York, into Pennsylvania. Even Florida. This guy traveled everywhere doing shows, in the music industry. So if you're a concert goer, your life was probably affected by Seb somewhere in that equation. And he was a good man. And I just wanted to pay tribute to him on here, to my YTPC community and family. And so I hope you all have a great year. Happy New Year. Please take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. But really take care of yourselves. They need you. And I'll see you guys on the next video.